Have you ever wondered why some people seem to live their lives with a calmness and purpose, while others struggle with anxiety, stress, and confusion? What if you could tap into the same peace and wisdom that brings transformation to their lives? Could you imagine waking up each day feeling motivated, positive, and at peace with yourself? We all face challenges. The question is, how do we respond to them? Do we let life's difficulties weigh us down, or do we rise above them and find meaning in the struggle? For many, the answer lies in the teachings of Buddhism, where the path to transformation begins with the mind. Just like a gardener nurtures a seed, we can cultivate our thoughts and actions to create a life full of growth, positivity, and peace. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, and instead of feeling overwhelmed by the demands of the day, you feel grounded, present, and ready to embrace whatever comes your way. This is possible, and it all starts with understanding how to transform the mind. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, a place where you'll learn powerful ways to change your life through simple, yet profound Buddhist wisdom. If you're ready to transform your mind and your life, stay with us. Throughout this video, we'll dive deep into how you can apply Buddhist principles to overcome the struggles you face and create lasting change in your life. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing valuable content to help you live a more peaceful, fulfilling life. Now, let's explore what it really means to transform your life. The journey begins with understanding that change doesn't happen overnight. But with each small step, you can begin to shift your mindset, develop compassion, and unlock the potential within you. Let's take a look at the first key to transformation. Recognizing that you have the power to change your life, no matter where you're starting from. Mindfulness, cultivating presence in everyday life. Imagine you're walking down the street, absorbed in the busy thoughts of the day. You may be thinking about work, relationships, or what's for dinner. Suddenly, something catches your eye, a flower in bloom, a child laughing, the breeze gently moving the leaves. In that moment, you pause, you notice, and for just a second, everything slows down, and you experience a deep sense of calm and presence. This moment of awareness is mindfulness, a powerful tool in Buddhism that can help us transform our lives. Mindfulness is simply the practice of being fully present in the here and now, without being distracted by past regrets or future worries. It's about focusing on the present moment with an open heart and mind. But in today's world, where distractions are everywhere, mindfulness can feel elusive. We often find ourselves thinking about everything except the present moment. However, the practice of mindfulness is not something that requires a lot of time or special skills. It can be woven into every part of our day, from the way we eat, walk, talk, to how we listen and breathe. Through mindfulness, we start to become aware of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without getting caught up in them. This awareness allows us to respond more calmly and wisely to life's challenges, instead of reacting out of habit or impulse. In Buddhism, mindfulness is one of the core teachings that can lead to deep transformation. It is said that by practicing mindfulness, we can begin to see the world as it truly is, free from the filters of our past experiences, biases, and judgments. It allows us to reconnect with the simple joy of life, just as it is, without needing it to be any different. Think about how often your mind jumps from one thought to another. You might be eating, but your mind is already planning your next task. Or maybe you're talking to someone, but you're thinking about something else entirely. This kind of scattered thinking creates stress, confusion, and a sense of disconnection. But when we practice mindfulness, we create space for a different kind of awareness. Instead of being lost in thoughts, we start to notice the sensations of our body, the sounds around us, the details of the world we often miss. You don't have to meditate for hours to practice mindfulness. You can start small. For example, when you eat, try eating slowly, paying attention to each bite, the flavors, the textures, and how it feels to nourish your body. Or when you walk, pay attention to how your feet feel as they touch the ground, the air on your skin, and the sights around you. These simple moments of awareness can help you reconnect with the present moment. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we begin to notice the patterns of our mind. We see when we're stuck in negative thought cycles, when we're reacting out of fear or anger, and when we're avoiding certain feelings or experiences. Mindfulness helps us to observe these patterns without judgment, allowing us to break free from automatic reactions and make more conscious choices. One powerful way mindfulness transforms our lives is by helping us deal with stress and anxiety. When we're overwhelmed with worries or pressures, mindfulness teaches us to stop and simply breathe. Instead of getting swept away by our thoughts, we focus on our breath, our body, in the present moment. This creates a space of calm in the midst of chaos, allowing us to respond more thoughtfully and less reactively. Another important aspect of mindfulness is that it helps us develop patience. In our fast-paced world, we're used to getting things done quickly, but mindfulness teaches us to slow down. By becoming more aware of the present moment, we learn to embrace life as it unfolds, without rushing through it. Whether it's waiting in line, driving in traffic, or sitting quietly, mindfulness helps us stay patient and calm, knowing that everything has its time and place. Mindfulness also has a profound impact on our relationships. When we're present with others, we truly listen, not just to their words, but also to their emotions, their needs, and their feelings. We begin to communicate more clearly and honestly, and our relationships become deeper and more meaningful. When we listen without judgment or distraction, we create space for connection, understanding, and compassion. In Buddhism, mindfulness is not just about being present with our own experiences, but also about extending that awareness to others. Through mindful listening and mindful speech, we can bring kindness and understanding to our interactions with the world. This transforms the way we relate to others, turning every interaction into an opportunity for growth and connection. As we continue to practice mindfulness, we begin to notice how much of our lives are shaped by our habits and conditioning. Many of us react to situations without thinking, automatically following patterns that we've developed over years. These patterns can be helpful, but they can also keep us stuck. Mindfulness helps us break free from these habits, giving us the freedom to choose how we respond in each moment. It's like hitting the reset button on our minds, allowing us to start fresh. The beauty of mindfulness is that it is always available to us. No matter where we are or what we're doing, we can always return to the present moment. Whether we're at work, at home, or with friends, we can practice mindfulness by simply bringing our attention back to the here and now. This awareness, when practiced consistently, has the power to transform our thoughts, our actions, and ultimately our lives. So, how do we begin? The first step is simply to make the decision to be present. Whether you're walking, eating, or talking, choose to be fully engaged in the moment. The second step is to practice regularly. Start with short moments of mindfulness and gradually build up. With time, mindfulness will become a natural part of your daily life. The impact of mindfulness on our well-being is profound. Studies have shown that it can reduce stress, improve emotional regulation, and even enhance physical health. When we practice mindfulness, we tap into a deeper sense of peace, clarity, and joy. And as we cultivate this presence in our lives, we begin to see the world with new eyes, full of beauty, possibility, and connection. To sum up, mindfulness is a powerful tool that can help you transform your life. By being present in the moment, we can reduce stress, improve our relationships, and break free from negative patterns. It's a practice that requires no special equipment, just a willingness to slow down, observe, and be fully engaged in the present moment. As you continue to cultivate mindfulness, you'll find that your life becomes richer, more meaningful, and more peaceful. It all starts with one simple choice: to be present, right here, right now, breaking free, letting go of attachment. In life, we often find ourselves attached to things, ideas, people, and even outcomes. We hold on to them so tightly that the thought of losing them creates fear, anxiety, and sometimes even suffering. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what if holding on is the very thing that's holding me back from peace and happiness? Think about a time when you've experienced stress. Maybe it was over a goal you didn't reach, a relationship that ended, or a possession you lost. What was the root of your stress? Wasn't it the attachment you had to how things should have been, or how you wanted them to be? Attachment isn't just about things like objects, it's about our mental and emotional connection to those things. Buddhism teaches us that attachment is one of the causes of suffering. When we cling to things, Whether it's a desire for more material possessions, the need to control our relationships, or the expectation that life will unfold in a certain way, we are bound by them. And this attachment leads to frustration and disappointment when things don't go as planned. Buddhism offers a simple yet powerful way to break free from this attachment. It begins with understanding that everything is impermanent. All things, whether material possessions, relationships, or even our own thoughts and feelings, are in a constant state of change. This is the truth of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, and this includes the things we hold dear. When we accept the truth of impermanence, we can begin to loosen our grip on the things that bind us. Imagine holding a fistful of sand in your hand. The tighter you grip it, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you relax your hand, the sand stays in place. Attachment works the same way. The tighter you hold on to something, the more it causes pain and discomfort. But if you allow yourself to let go, you open up space for peace and freedom. Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about the things or people in your life. It doesn't mean you stop trying to achieve your goals or that you abandon your dreams. It means you stop allowing these things to control you. You stop letting them determine your happiness. When you let go of attachment, you're making room for something greater: inner peace, contentment, and freedom. The process of letting go is gradual. It's about being mindful of where your attachments lie and gently releasing them. For instance, think about your relationship with material possessions. We live in a world where we're constantly told that we need more. More clothes, more gadgets, more status. But ask yourself, do these things truly bring me happiness? In many cases, the answer is no. The more we acquire, the more we become attached to having more. This cycle continues, but it doesn't bring lasting joy. Buddhism teaches us to practice contentment with what we have. It's not about rejecting the material world, but about understanding that true happiness comes from within, not from external things. When you begin to practice gratitude for what you already have, you'll notice a shift in your mindset. You'll start to realize that the things you once thought you needed to be happy aren't as important as you once believed. But attachment isn't just about things. It also applies to people and relationships. We all experience attachments to others, our friends, our family, our partners. These attachments can be healthy and loving, but they can also become sources of stress if we hold on too tightly. In relationships, we often try to control how others behave, think, or feel. We place expectations on them, thinking that their actions or emotions will determine our happiness. But the truth is, we can't control others. And when we try, we create tension and disappointment. Letting go of attachment in relationships doesn't mean you stop loving or caring for others. It means you allow people to be who they are without trying to change them to fit your expectations. It means accepting the ebb and flow of relationships, understanding that sometimes people come into your life for a season and then move on. When you let go of the need to control or possess, you create space for deeper, more meaningful connections built on mutual respect and understanding. Another form of attachment that many of us struggle with is the attachment to our own emotions and thoughts. We often identify ourselves with our thoughts and feelings, believing that they define who we are. If we're sad, we think, I'm a sad person. If we're angry, we believe, I'm an angry person. But this is a trap. Emotions and thoughts are not who we are. They are temporary states of mind. When we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them, we gain freedom. We no longer let our emotions dictate our actions or our sense of self-worth. Instead, we become the observers of our minds, watching the ebb and flow of thoughts without getting caught up in them. One of the best ways to practice letting go of attachment is through mindfulness and meditation. When you sit in meditation, you allow yourself to be present with whatever arises in your mind and body. You observe your thoughts without judgment, without trying to push them away or hold on to them. This practice teaches you to let go, to simply be, without needing anything to change in order for you to feel at peace. Another powerful tool in letting go of attachment is the practice of self-compassion. Often, we hold on to attachment because we fear that we won't be okay without it. We fear that if we let go, we will lose something essential. But when you practice self-compassion, you remind yourself that you are whole, just as you are. You don't need external things or people to define your worth. You are worthy of love, peace and happiness simply because you exist. When you cultivate self-compassion, you can begin to release your attachments and trust that everything you need is already within you. Letting go is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. But with practice, you will begin to notice the shift. You'll find that you're no longer weighed down by expectations, fears, or regrets. You'll experience a sense of freedom and lightness, as if a burden has been lifted from your shoulders. The more you let go of attachment, the more you create space for peace, joy, and growth. Remember, the key is not to force yourself to let go, but to gently observe and allow. Every time you catch yourself holding on to something, whether it's a material possession, a relationship, an emotion, or a thought, take a deep breath. Acknowledge the attachment, and then allow yourself to release it, bit by bit. The journey of letting go is ongoing, but with each step, you move closer to the freedom that comes from non-attachment. And in that freedom, you'll find the peace and happiness you've been seeking all along. Embracing impermanence, finding freedom in change. Change is something we can't avoid. No matter how hard we try to hold on, everything around us is constantly shifting. Seasons change, relationships evolve. Our thoughts and feelings come and go like passing clouds in the sky. Yet, most of us resist change. We fear it. We try to control it. But what if we could learn to embrace change instead of fighting it? What if the key to a peaceful and fulfilling life lies not in holding on, but in letting go and accepting the flow of life? In Buddhism, this is one of the most important lessons we can learn: impermanence. Impermanence simply means that nothing lasts forever. Everything is temporary, whether it's a moment of joy, a feeling of sadness, or even the material possessions we surround ourselves with. Understanding and accepting impermanence is the gateway to freedom. When we truly understand that everything changes, we can let go of our attachments to things, people, or outcomes. We no longer need to fear losing what we have, because we know that change is just a natural part of life. Think about it for a moment. How much of your stress comes from wanting things to stay the same? How often do you feel upset when things don't go according to your plans? We all have expectations, whether it's about our career, relationships, or even our personal growth. But when life doesn't match those expectations, we feel disappointed, anxious, or frustrated. This is because we are resisting change. The truth is, when we resist the natural flow of life, we only make ourselves suffer. Now, imagine if you could let go of that resistance. Imagine if, instead of worrying about the future or regretting the past, you could simply live fully in the present moment, trusting that change is an opportunity for growth and renewal. This is what Buddhism teaches us, that every change, no matter how difficult it may seem, is a chance to evolve. When we let go of our attachments to how things should be, we can experience true freedom. One of the most powerful ways to embrace impermanence is by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us become aware of the present moment without judgment. It teaches us to observe our thoughts, feelings, and experiences without clinging to them. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to see that everything is in constant motion. Our thoughts come and go. Our emotions rise and fall. Our circumstances change. And through this awareness, we start to see that nothing is permanent, not even our worries or fears. Think of it like a river. The water in a river is always flowing, always moving. The same water never stays in one place. And just like that water, our thoughts, emotions, and experiences are constantly flowing. When we try to hold on to a moment or feeling, it's like trying to grasp water in our hands. It slips through our fingers. But when we let the water flow freely, we are at peace. This is the same with our thoughts and emotions. When we let them come and go without clinging to them, we find peace. The next time you find yourself struggling with a difficult situation, try to remember the teaching of impermanence. Instead of fighting against it, ask yourself, what can I learn from this moment of change? How can I grow from this experience? When you shift your perspective and embrace change, even the most challenging moments can become opportunities for learning and growth. But embracing impermanence doesn't just apply to external situations, it also applies to our inner world. Our thoughts and beliefs are constantly changing too, just like a cloud passing through the sky. A negative thought doesn't last forever unless we hold on to it. So when you notice a negative thought arising, perhaps about yourself, your future, or your situation, recognize it as temporary. It's like a passing cloud. You don't need to attach to it. You don't need to believe it. You can let it go, knowing that it will pass, just like everything else. Another powerful way to embrace impermanence is to reflect on the fleeting nature of life itself. We all know that life is short, but how often do we truly live with that awareness? When we understand that our time here is limited, we start to appreciate the present moment more deeply. We no longer take things for granted. We begin to cherish the people we love, the experiences we have, and the opportunities before us. This understanding of impermanence also helps us let go of past regrets and future worries. We can become less attached to the idea of how things should have been and instead focus on how things are in the present. By practicing acceptance of what is, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Buddhism teaches us that the desire to hold on to things is the root cause of suffering. When we are attached to something, whether it's a person, a possession, or even a feeling, we create an expectation that it should stay the same forever. But the truth is, nothing stays the same. And when we expect things to stay as they are, we set ourselves up for disappointment and pain. So, how can we practice letting go of attachment? One way is through meditation. Meditation helps us observe the changing nature of our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. When we sit in stillness, we begin to see the constant flow of thoughts and feelings, and we can practice letting them come and go without clinging to them. Over time, we become more comfortable with change. We begin to accept it as a natural part of life. By embracing impermanence, we also become more compassionate toward others. We understand that everyone is on their own journey, and everyone experiences change and loss in their own way. We begin to see that no one is immune to suffering, but we also realize that suffering is temporary. It passes. And when we truly understand this, we can offer support to others with kindness and patience, knowing that everything will change in time. The final key to embracing impermanence is to trust that change can lead to something better. Just as the seasons change, bringing new growth, every change in our life holds the potential for new beginnings. Sometimes, we may not see it right away, but when we look back, we often realize that the challenges we faced led us to a better place. Embracing change allows us to move forward with trust and hope, knowing that even in the darkest moments, something new is always emerging. In conclusion, embracing impermanence is not about resisting change, but about accepting it as a natural part of life. It's about letting go of attachments and trusting in the flow of life. When we understand that nothing lasts forever, we can live more fully, with greater peace and freedom. By practicing mindfulness, reflecting on the fleeting nature of life, and letting go of past regrets and future worries, we can begin to experience true freedom in the face of change. Remember, change is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. And in doing so, we can unlock the power of transformation within ourselves. The power of compassion, healing, and connecting with others. Compassion. It's a word we hear often, but do we really understand what it means? What does it take to truly feel and show compassion, not just to others, but to ourselves as well? What does compassion have to do with transforming our lives? The truth is, compassion is one of the most powerful forces we can bring into our lives. It has the power to heal wounds, ease suffering, and transform the way we relate to the world. But many of us are so caught up in the busyness of life that we forget the simple yet profound practice of caring for others and ourselves. Let's pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and think about a time when someone showed you kindness without expecting anything in return. Maybe it was a friend who listened to you when you needed to talk, or a stranger who helped you when you were in need. Remember the warmth that you felt in that moment, the feeling of being seen, heard, and valued. Compassion is like a light that can make even the darkest moments brighter. It creates a bond between us and others that nothing else can replicate. In Buddhism, compassion is considered one of the highest virtues. The Buddha taught that true compassion goes beyond just feeling pity for someone in their suffering. It is an active desire to relieve the suffering of others, to help them in their time of need, and to walk with them through their struggles. Compassion is not just about kindness when things are easy. It's about showing up, being present, and extending love even when it's hard. Compassion isn't about grand gestures or expecting something in return. It's about small acts of kindness, of listening deeply, and of offering comfort to those who need it most. But compassion doesn't stop with others. One of the most important aspects of Buddhist teachings on compassion is learning to be compassionate with ourselves. How often do we criticize ourselves, judge our mistakes, or feel unworthy of kindness? If we want to experience true transformation, we must begin by offering ourselves the same compassion we extend to others. Treat yourself with kindness, understanding, and patience. Recognize that you, too, are a work in progress. Just like you would comfort a friend in distress, allow yourself the space to heal, grow, and move forward without the weight of harsh self-judgment. When we practice compassion, something incredible happens. It doesn't just heal the other person or improve the relationship, it also heals us. Offering compassion to others can reduce our own suffering, helping us to experience more peace, joy, and connection. When we focus on helping others, we shift our attention away from our own struggles and find new meaning in our lives. Let's take an example. Imagine a person who is always stressed at work, constantly worried about deadlines, expectations, and tasks piling up. Their mind is consumed by pressure, and they find it hard to focus on anything else. Now, imagine that person deciding to spend a few minutes each day focusing on someone else's well-being. Maybe they send a thoughtful message to a friend, ask a colleague if they're okay, or offer a hand to someone in need. By turning their attention to others, even for just a brief moment, they begin to shift their perspective. Instead of drowning in their own worries, they find themselves more relaxed, with a sense of purpose and fulfillment that comes from helping others. This doesn't mean we should ignore our own needs or problems. In fact, the more we practice compassion, the more we realize that we are all interconnected. Our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. We cannot find lasting peace if we only focus on ourselves. True transformation happens when we begin to see the world through the lens of compassion, when we recognize that everyone, just like us, is struggling in some way. This understanding helps us to respond with kindness and patience, both toward others and ourselves. Compassion also plays a crucial role in reducing negative emotions such as anger, resentment, and fear. These emotions often arise when we feel disconnected from others or when we focus too much on our own problems. But when we open our hearts and minds to compassion, we begin to soften our reactions to life's challenges. Instead of holding on to grudges or fueling our own suffering, we choose to release those negative emotions and replace them with love and understanding. Now, you might be thinking, but what if the people around me aren't compassionate? What if they hurt me or treat me poorly? It's a fair question. The truth is, we can't control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond to them. In Buddhism, we are taught to practice compassion not just for those who are kind to us, but even for those who may cause us harm. This doesn't mean we allow ourselves to be mistreated, but it does mean we choose not to hold on to anger or resentment. We can choose to forgive, to release negative feelings, and to understand that the suffering of others often comes from their own pain and struggles. Compassion helps us rise above the hurt and find peace in the face of adversity. By practicing compassion, we begin to experience the world differently. We become more attuned to the needs of others, and we develop a deeper sense of empathy. This shift in mindset brings with it a sense of belonging, of connection, and of love. When we show compassion, we not only help others feel seen and understood, but we also create an environment where kindness and understanding can flourish. It becomes easier to connect with others on a deeper level, to build meaningful relationships, and to experience a sense of shared humanity. At the heart of it all, compassion is a gift we can give to others and to ourselves. It is a simple, yet profound, practice that can transform not just our relationships, but our entire way of being. It's about recognizing that we are all in this together, and that by helping one another, we help ourselves. Compassion teaches us to open our hearts, to be gentle with ourselves and others, and to see the world through the lens of kindness. It may be one of the most powerful tools for personal transformation, and it's available to all of us, every single day. So, what are you waiting for? Start small. Take a moment today to practice compassion, whether it's through a kind word, a thoughtful action, or a gentle thought toward yourself. As you do, you'll begin to notice the transformation taking place, not only in the lives of others, but in your own heart as well. Compassion truly has the power to heal and connect us all. And with each compassionate act, you are one step closer to the life you've always wanted to live. Overcoming suffering, the path to inner peace. Suffering is a part of life. No one is immune to it, no matter who they are or where they come from. But how we deal with suffering can completely change the way we live. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to find peace in the middle of difficult situations, while others are overwhelmed by the smallest challenges? This difference lies in how we understand suffering and how we respond to it. In Buddhism, the concept of suffering, or dukkha, is central. The Buddha taught that suffering is not something to avoid or fear, but something to understand deeply. Suffering is an inevitable part of human life. It can take many forms: physical pain, emotional distress, loss, disappointment, and the feeling of being stuck in life. But the Buddha also taught that suffering doesn't have to define us. It doesn't have to control us. When we understand its nature, we can learn how to face it with courage and transform it into something that leads to growth and peace. One of the key ideas in Buddhism is that suffering comes from our attachment to things. We attach ourselves to our desires, our possessions, our relationships, and even our own self-image. But everything in life is temporary. Things change, people change, and when we hold too tightly to anything that is impermanent, we set ourselves up for pain. Imagine this. You're holding a delicate flower in your hand, and you're afraid to let it go because you don't want it to wither. The more you cling to the flower, the more you damage it, and the more you suffer. But if you let go of your tight grip, you allow the flower to live naturally, just as it is. The same goes for our attachments in life. When we let go, we stop fighting against the flow of life. We learn to accept things as they are, and in doing so, we release the burden of suffering. One of the most powerful tools to overcome suffering is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us become aware of our thoughts, feelings, and reactions in the present moment. Instead of getting caught up in the past or worrying about the future, mindfulness teaches us to pay attention to what is happening right now. It allows us to see things clearly and respond with wisdom, rather than reacting with anger, fear, or frustration. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. Instead of letting frustration take over, mindfulness can help you notice your impatience and observe it without judgment. You can acknowledge that this feeling of frustration is temporary and choose to respond in a way that brings you peace. Maybe you take a deep breath, focus on the present moment, or use the time to reflect on something positive. This simple shift in awareness can transform your entire experience. Another powerful way to overcome suffering is by developing compassion. When we experience pain, it's easy to feel isolated, as if we are the only ones who suffer. But suffering is a universal experience. Everyone goes through it in different forms. Compassion allows us to connect with others and recognize that we are not alone. By opening our hearts to others, we also open ourselves to healing. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is not just about feeling sorry for someone else. It's about understanding their pain and offering support in any way we can. It's about recognizing the shared human experience of suffering and responding with kindness. When we cultivate compassion, we not only help others, but we also free ourselves from the grip of our own suffering. The more we give, the more we receive. In addition to mindfulness and compassion, another important Buddhist practice for overcoming suffering is meditation. Meditation helps calm the mind and develop inner peace. Through regular practice, we create space between ourselves and our thoughts. We stop identifying with every passing feeling or thought, and instead, we observe them without attachment. This space allows us to find peace, even in the midst of chaos. Think of the mind as a lake. When the water is disturbed by winds, it becomes turbulent, and we can't see clearly. But when the water is calm, everything is clear. Meditation helps to still the mind, creating a calm, peaceful state where we can see things as they truly are. This clarity allows us to make wiser decisions, respond with greater understanding, and experience less emotional turbulence. As we begin to understand the nature of suffering, we can also begin to understand that it is not permanent. Just as the storm eventually passes and the water in the lake becomes still, so too will our suffering change. Nothing lasts forever. The Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering is a part of life, but it is not the end of the story. There is always the possibility of peace, healing, and transformation. Another key teaching in Buddhism is that suffering can lead to wisdom. Through our struggles, we learn, we grow stronger, we develop patience and resilience. In fact, suffering can be one of the greatest teachers. When we experience pain, we are forced to face our weaknesses, our fears, and our attachments. But when we face these challenges with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we come out the other side transformed. This is the path to inner peace. It's not about avoiding suffering, but about learning how to navigate it with grace and understanding. It's about accepting the impermanence of life and letting go of the need to control everything. When we stop fighting against the flow of life, we begin to flow with it. We embrace each moment as it comes, without resistance, without fear. We trust in the process of life and know that, just as the sun rises every morning, we too will rise after every storm. The path to overcoming suffering is not an easy one. It requires practice, patience, and a willingness to face ourselves honestly. But it is a path worth walking. With each step, we free ourselves from the burden of suffering and move closer to the peace and freedom that is our birthright. Remember, suffering is a natural part of life, but it is not something we have to carry alone. Through mindfulness, compassion, meditation, and the wisdom of the Buddhist teachings, we can find a way through the darkness and into the light. The journey may be long, but every step brings us closer to the peace and joy that await us when we learn to overcome suffering and embrace the beauty of life, just as it is. Right thinking, transforming negative thought patterns. The mind is like a river, flowing with thoughts every moment. Some thoughts are peaceful, like calm waters, while others can be turbulent and chaotic. These turbulent thoughts can drown us, making us feel overwhelmed, anxious, and fearful. But what if we told you that you could steer your mind, like a skilled rower guides a boat through a stormy river? It's possible to transform negative thought patterns into a peaceful, focused mind. And in Buddhism, this is called right thinking. Right thinking doesn't mean you stop having negative thoughts. That's impossible. What it means is learning to change how you respond to those thoughts. Instead of letting them control you, you can learn to control them. Buddhism teaches us that our thoughts create our reality. If we let negative thoughts dominate our mind, our reality becomes filled with negativity. But if we learn to recognize and transform those thoughts, we can create a life full of peace, clarity, and happiness. The first step in transforming negative thoughts is to notice them. Think about a time when you felt angry, anxious, or frustrated. What was going through your mind at that moment? Was there a specific thought or belief that triggered your emotions? Often, negative emotions are tied to thoughts that we don't even question. We just accept them as the truth. But the truth is, our thoughts are not always accurate reflections of reality. They are simply mental habits we've developed over time. Once you begin to notice negative thoughts, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me? Is it true? Let's say you're thinking, I'm not good enough. Is that thought helping you? Does it help you grow or improve? No, it just keeps you stuck in a place of self-doubt. So, instead of believing it, ask yourself, what's a more helpful thought? Maybe it's something like, I am doing the best I can, and I am capable of learning and growing. By shifting your mindset like this, you start to create a new mental habit. In Buddhism, we often talk about the concept of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to your thoughts without judgment. When you're mindful, you don't get caught up in your thoughts. You observe them from a distance, like watching clouds pass in the sky. You don't need to identify with them or let them control you. You simply acknowledge them and then let them go. This can be incredibly powerful because when you stop attaching yourself to your thoughts, they lose their power over you. Another important part of right thinking is developing a compassionate mind. Often, our negative thoughts come from a place of fear, insecurity, or self-judgment. But what if, instead of criticizing ourselves, we approached ourselves with kindness and understanding? In Buddhism, we practice loving-kindness meditation, where we send compassion to ourselves and others. When you begin to practice loving-kindness towards yourself, you start to transform your inner dialogue. Instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, you might think, I am doing my best, and I deserve love and compassion. This simple shift in perspective can begin to heal the negative thought patterns that have held you back. It's also important to remember that thoughts are not permanent. Just like the weather, they come and go. Sometimes a negative thought may appear, and it might feel overwhelming. But just because it's there in the moment doesn't mean it will last forever. By practicing right thinking, you can learn to let these thoughts pass by without getting caught in them. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to maintain a peaceful mind, even in difficult situations. Buddha taught that we can free ourselves from suffering by changing our mental habits. We don't have to accept every thought as the truth. We don't have to let our minds run wild with negativity. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, and self-awareness, we can choose the thoughts that bring us peace and let go of the ones that don't serve us. This is the power of right thinking. It's not about eliminating negative thoughts entirely, but about changing our relationship with them. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, we can respond with understanding and compassion. You can practice right thinking every day by simply paying attention to your thoughts. When you notice a negative thought, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me? If it's not, let it go and choose a more positive or neutral thought instead. It's a simple practice, but it takes time and patience. Just like a muscle, your mind needs practice to grow stronger and more focused. But with consistent effort, you can begin to transform your thoughts and, ultimately, your life. Think of it like this. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you plant seeds of negativity, fear, and doubt, those seeds will grow into weeds that take over your garden. But if you plant seeds of positivity, love, and compassion, you'll cultivate a beautiful garden filled with peace and happiness. The choice is yours. You are the gardener of your mind. Over time, as you practice right thinking, you'll notice a change. You'll begin to see the world in a different way. Challenges won't feel as overwhelming, and you'll find that you have more control over your emotions. You'll begin to respond to situations with calmness and clarity, rather than reacting with anger or frustration. And the best part is, this change doesn't happen in an instant. It's a gradual transformation that happens over time. But with patience, mindfulness, and self-compassion, you will see the fruits of your labor. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment is a gradual process. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you notice a negative thought and choose a more positive or peaceful response, you are taking a step towards a more fulfilling life. This is the essence of right thinking, choosing to transform your mind, one thought at a time. So, if you want to change your life, start by changing your thoughts. It won't happen overnight, but with practice, you'll begin to see the power of your mind to shape your reality. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember that each step you take towards transforming your thoughts is a step towards transforming your life. Contentment and simplicity, rediscovering joy in less. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the constant search for more. More things, more success, more achievements. We often think that our happiness depends on acquiring these things, whether it's a bigger house, a newer car, or even more followers on social media. But what if the key to true happiness isn't about having more, but about needing less? In Buddhism, one of the core teachings is the importance of contentment. Contentment is the ability to feel satisfied with what you have, rather than constantly striving for more. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals or dreams. It simply means that your happiness doesn't depend on constantly getting more or having everything perfect. Contentment is about appreciating what you already have and finding peace in the present moment. When we are content, we are free from the burden of always seeking. This doesn't mean we stop pursuing growth or self-improvement. It means we stop looking for happiness in external things. Real contentment comes from within. It is the deep sense of peace that comes when we are at ease with ourselves and our circumstances. You may have heard the saying, less is more. In the Buddhist tradition, this concept is key to finding happiness. In fact, the Buddha taught that attachment to material things is a source of suffering. The more we cling to possessions, the more we create inner turmoil. The less we rely on external things for our sense of well-being, the more we can enjoy the simplicity of life. Think of it this way. If you own less, you have less to worry about. If you are less attached to things, you are free to enjoy life as it is. Simplicity is another important part of contentment. The more we simplify our lives, the more room we make for peace, joy, and meaningful experiences. By clearing away the clutter, both physically and mentally, we create space for the things that truly matter. It could be spending time with loved ones, enjoying a quiet moment of reflection, or simply being present in the beauty of nature. These are the moments where true happiness can be found. A simple life does not mean a boring life. It means a life that is rich with meaning, without the distraction of unnecessary things. Think about how much time you spend maintaining things that don't add value to your life. Whether it's cleaning out your closet, managing bills, or worrying about what other people think, these distractions take away from the joy you could be experiencing right now. By letting go of unnecessary possessions and obligations, you free up your time and energy for what truly brings you happiness. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, and that includes our possessions. The things we chase after today will not last forever. This can be seen in the way material goods lose their value over time. A new car eventually becomes old. A new phone eventually becomes outdated. In the same way, our desire for more can also fade when we realize that things do not bring lasting happiness. True contentment comes from understanding the fleeting nature of material possessions and learning to appreciate what is already in front of us. One of the simplest ways to start practicing contentment is by focusing on gratitude. Take a moment each day to reflect on the things you are grateful for, no matter how small they may seem. It could be as simple as having a roof over your head, the warmth of the sun, or the smile of a loved one. Gratitude helps us shift our focus away from what we don't have and towards what we already possess. It reminds us that we have enough. Another aspect of contentment is learning to accept what we cannot change. Life doesn't always go the way we want, and we will face hardships. But how we respond to these challenges is what makes the difference. Buddhism teaches us that by accepting the impermanence of life, we can find peace in the midst of uncertainty. When we stop fighting against the flow of life, we can learn to flow with it. This acceptance is a form of contentment. It's not about resigning to a life of suffering, but about making peace with the fact that change is inevitable. Simplicity also extends to our thoughts. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information and distractions, it can be hard to find clarity. But the more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the clearer our minds become. We start to see that many of the thoughts that cause us stress and worry are not as important as we once believed. By letting go of the mental clutter, we can make space for peace, creativity, and joy. When we live simply, we also reduce our environmental impact. Many people find that living with less not only brings them inner peace, but it also helps them feel more connected to the world around them. Whether it's by choosing more sustainable products or reducing waste, living a simpler life can help create a healthier planet for future generations. In this way, contentment and simplicity not only benefit the individual, but they also contribute to the well-being of the community and the environment. By focusing on what truly matters, relationships, experiences, and personal growth, we begin to see that life can be full of joy without the need for endless possessions or achievements. The pursuit of contentment leads us to a deeper understanding of what it means to live a meaningful life. It's about realizing that happiness doesn't come from what we have, but from how we choose to live. In Buddhism, simplicity is seen as a path to enlightenment. By freeing ourselves from the distractions of consumerism, we can turn our attention inward and focus on the things that lead to inner peace and wisdom. The simpler our lives, the more we can cultivate a deep sense of connection to ourselves and the world around us. Through simplicity, we find the clarity to see what is truly important and the courage to let go of what no longer serves us. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of modern life, remember that you don't have to do everything. You don't have to have everything. In fact, sometimes less is more. By simplifying your life and focusing on what truly brings you joy, you can rediscover a sense of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. In the end, the path to contentment and simplicity is not about being perfect. It's about learning to let go of the unnecessary and embracing the present moment. It's about finding joy in what you already have and realizing that the most meaningful things in life are often the simplest. As the Buddha said, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. Sustaining the transformation, final reflections and takeaways. The journey of transformation is like the flow of a river. It never stops. It doesn't end at any point, because the river itself is always moving, always changing. So too is the process of personal growth. It's not a destination, but an ongoing path that stretches out before us every day. You've learned a lot about how to start the journey, and now, in this final part, we will reflect on how to sustain the transformation you've begun. Have you ever noticed how, when you first start something new, it's exciting? It feels fresh, like a new chapter. But as time goes on, it can become harder to keep going. The challenges might feel bigger, the path might seem steeper. Maybe you begin to wonder, can I really keep this up? These moments of doubt are natural, but they do not have to stop you. They can be the very places where your strength and wisdom grow. In Buddhism, we learn that life is always in motion, and so are we. We can't stay in one place forever. Just like a tree grows taller with each season, you too will continue to evolve. The trick is to stay rooted in the teachings, no matter what comes your way. When we understand that change is constant, we stop fearing it and start embracing it. But sustaining transformation doesn't mean you will always feel perfect. It doesn't mean life will always be easy. It means being okay with the imperfections and staying committed to the process. Think of it like this. When a gardener plants a tree, he doesn't expect it to grow overnight. He tends to it every day, patiently, even when the growth is small and hard to see. In the same way, you must be patient with yourself as you continue to grow. The teachings of Buddhism remind us that we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be without faults. We don't need to fix everything at once. What we need is to stay aware, stay present, and stay committed. Even on the days when it feels hard, even when it feels like nothing is changing, your small efforts are still building a strong foundation. Every time you take a moment to breathe, every time you choose compassion over anger, every time you practice mindfulness instead of distraction, you are nurturing your transformation. These moments add up. As you walk this path, you will find that life becomes more manageable. The difficulties, though they still come, won't seem so overwhelming. You'll begin to understand that they are not obstacles to your peace, but rather opportunities to practice. This is the true meaning of mindfulness, the ability to remain calm and present in the face of whatever life brings. It's not about avoiding challenges, but about learning to meet them with a peaceful mind and an open heart. One of the most important aspects of sustaining transformation is building resilience. Life will test you. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, but this is where your practice will show its value. When you have learned to return to your breath, to your heart, to the present moment, you will have the strength to endure. Resilience doesn't mean never falling. It means learning to rise again each time you do. In Buddhist philosophy, we talk about the middle way, the balance between extremes. This can apply to your transformation as well. It's important to push forward, but it's equally important to rest, to take time for yourself, to allow yourself to pause and breathe. Transformation isn't a race. It's a journey, and journeys require pacing. When you feel overwhelmed, take a step back, reflect, meditate. Remember that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take breaks. True transformation happens when we give ourselves permission to grow at our own pace. As you continue along this path, it's also essential to surround yourself with the right influences. Who do you spend your time with? What thoughts do you nourish in your mind? Are they helpful or harmful to your growth? In Buddhism, we talk about right association, being with people who inspire you, who support you, who challenge you in a good way. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult people, but it does mean making choices about where to place your energy. Remember that transformation isn't just about changing yourself. It's about changing the way you interact with the world. It's about bringing kindness, compassion, and understanding to those around you. As you grow, you'll begin to see how your positive energy impacts those you meet. The way you treat others becomes a reflection of the way you treat yourself. When you are calm, centered, and compassionate, the world around you will begin to mirror that back. This is the ripple effect of your transformation. Sustaining this transformation requires continuous practice. Every day is a new opportunity to practice patience, to practice compassion, to practice presence. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. Some days, you might forget to breathe deeply or lose your temper. That's part of being human. What matters is that you don't give up. What matters is that you remember the teachings, even when it feels hard to practice them. There will always be setbacks, but each setback is a lesson. Each challenge is a chance to deepen your understanding of the path. The key is to not be discouraged. When you slip, don't beat yourself up. Just gently guide yourself back onto the path. Just as a river doesn't stop flowing when it encounters a rock, your transformation doesn't stop when you face difficulties. Keep flowing, keep moving forward. As we come to the end of this video, remember that the path to transformation is not something you do once and then forget about. It's something you live. Every day, every moment, is an opportunity to practice the teachings of Buddhism. Whether it's through mindfulness, meditation, or compassion, you are always growing. And even when it seems like nothing is changing, know that beneath the surface, the transformation is happening. Thank you for staying with us through this journey. If you found value in these teachings, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven to keep receiving wisdom that can guide you on your path to transformation. May your journey be filled with peace, love, and endless growth. Stay connected to the present, stay rooted in compassion, and always remember, the transformation you seek is already within you. Keep walking the path, one step at a time.